Penglin 1.15 is out, and this release brings the private access VPN capability of Penglin out of beta, as well as brings new iOS, iPadOS, and Android clients for the VPN, device approvals, device posture information, and device fingerprint information, as well as a number of other smaller features like device blocking, device archiving, many stability improvements, and UI enhancements. This is also an important release because it marks the 1-year anniversary of Penglin. 1 year ago, we released the first versions of Penglin, which were buggy and in beta as the self-hosted alternative to Cloudflare tunnels. We've stabilized that core, and just at the end of 2025, we started working really hard to push this new private access functionality of Penglin to provide the full suite of remote access functionality based on identity. In the dashboard, Penglin private resources and Penglin clients are now out of beta as we're considering them stable. Previously, we had clients for Mac, Windows, and Linux. We've just now added clients for mobile on iOS and Android. So you can go to the Apple App Store to download the latest version of the iPhone app. This also works on iPad OS. And then you can go to the Google Play Store to download the latest version of the Android app for your Android phone. We put a lot of effort into making these apps be as performant as possible and work in low power states for your phone so as to not drain battery life. These are native apps written in Swift and Kotlin for both platforms, and then we implement our Olm client, which is doing the heavy lifting of the tunneling under the hood across really all the platforms. Going back to the dashboard, one big thing you'll see now on this new version is when you connect any of these clients, we actually now collect a suite of device fingerprint information and posture information. So what's the difference between the two? The fingerprint information are things like serial number, the current operating system version, architecture, etc. So you can see as I scroll through this list of the connected devices in my organization, I can see more information about the iPhone, this MacBook, this Windows laptop that is connected, as well as the Pixel 9a. And then if I click into one of these devices, like let's do the Windows device, you'll actually see here that more details about all that information you saw on the little hover card before, as well as posture information. So this is device security. So things like whether or not the disk is encrypted, whether or not the firewall is enabled, is antivirus enabled. And for Windows specifically, this will track is Windows Defender on, or do you have a third-party antivirus? So each implementation is actually slightly different across the platforms, as each platform exposes different security levers to developers. So for Mac OS, you'll find that there's very slightly different posture checks. So system integrity protection and gatekeeper are Mac OS specific posture checks. This information is useful for a couple reasons. One, it helps admins identify trusted devices. So before, when you would connect a device, it was unclear maybe which specific device in a fleet it was. If Bob has multiple MacBook Pros, how do you decide one from the other? So this lets you track it based on serial number or host name. And then also device security is important because admins can say, I don't want to allow any devices that don't have their firewall enabled or don't have their disk encrypted, so then they can go and block these devices. An inherent benefit of the fingerprinting information is we can now track the device forever. So if the user clears the credential from their device, the device connects, it will re-register with the Penglin server and actually acquire the same fingerprint information and be able to link it back to the same device in Penglin. So this means if I go and I blocked this MacBook Pro, and then I went to the block settings here, if I completely reset my MacBook and then the same user connects on that MacBook, it will remain blocked. So moving on, one other thing you might notice here is the Windows laptop has a pending approval badge. So this leads to the next large feature that's been added, which is admin approval requests. Penglin has applied many zero trust principles to grant specific users and roles access to resources. So we're now expanding that zero trust to the hardware level and giving admins the power to approve specific devices before they can actually connect to resources as well. So the way this works is this user, this contact at penglin.net, is in a role called device approvals. And if I go to the roles tab and I actually edit this device approvals role, you'll see there's a new checkbox here in the role settings to enforce this. And then now when a user logs into the client on their device, so the Windows laptop, it will go provision itself with the Penglin server, show me the fingerprint information, show me the posture information, which I can then go review it would show up there in that device list as pending approval. And then I can go and make a decision on whether or not I trust this device before it can actually connect. Related to this, there's a new feed in the sidebar. So under Access, there's an approval requests tab now. There's actually a nice notification which will show me how many pending approvals there are. So if I click on this, I have that one pending approval from that contact at penglin.net account for the Windows laptop. I can see some high-level fingerprint info about that device, and then I could go click in, of course, and see the device. I can not only approve or deny the request on the device page, but I could also do it on this feed. So I can, if I had a bunch of approvals, I can go down and make my decisions one by one. And the nice thing is we always keep track of these decisions. So if you want, you can go back and filter through old decisions if you wanted to see previously denied devices. Another notable update for our self-hosted users is now in the Enterprise Edition, which is free for personal use and small businesses, can now take advantage of org-only identity providers. So previously, you would create a identity provider in the server admin panel, which applied globally. It was on all the login pages. In our cloud model, you can go and within the organization itself, the tenancy, you can click on the identity providers tab and add providers that show up only for that provider for that organization on that organization's login page. You can now toggle between the previous global identity providers or org-only identity providers through a feature flag in the settings. To accompany this change, we've improved the login flow as well. So the core issue here is that when you have organization identity providers, you need to have a way to present or have the user pick from one of the optional identity providers for their multiple organizations they might be in. So they have two options now. They can click sign into an organization and enter in a specific organization ID, or if they have an email already provisioned in the system, they can type that in here, and then when they click next, Penglin will go search for all the different orgs and identity providers that are available to them. So for me, I have an internal account where I can log in with my password, or I can use my Google Workspace identity provider that you saw was attached to that org I was just in. So if I select that now, it'll go and actually authenticate using my Google account here and then connect and then take me back to that org that I was in earlier. That's it for the big changes, but we've made a number of many UI enhancements. For example, now under the credentials page for the clients and the sites, you can also view the install instructions again, just to make it a little bit easier to install a site that you have already created. There's been improvements to the target input box when you create a resource, so now you can tab between the host name and the port and much more. So check out the full release notes on GitHub. You can try all these features now for free if you sign up at app.penglin.net. Of course, you can also self-host the open source community edition or enterprise edition, depending on your needs. Thanks everyone for sticking with us for the past year. The community has really grown quite a bit. It's been very explosive, and we have a lot planned for this next year, so we're very much looking forward to it.